The Honourary Thorston by Concerned Brown Bread. Read by My Lost and Found. Chapter 2. Crazy Takes Flight. Summary. In which Tuffnut has a sensitive side, Hiccup gets adopted, and Ruffnut's been missing a fight. Oh, there's also goat bladders involved, courtesy of the twins. 1. Broken Wings. Ruffnut! Tuffnut! Hiccup winced at the volume of shouting, sighing as he realized the Thorston twins had once again left a trail of destruction in their wake. Something about sheep, metal wires, and a single orange. Those two. Gobber shook his head. For all your faults, Hiccup, at least you won't be that much trouble, eh? I'm plenty trouble, Hiccup said with mock indignation. See how much trouble I am? He tried to swing an axe he was sharpening, and promptly fell. Gobber burst out laughing. You're a riot is what you are, Gobber said, wiping his eyes. Back to work. More work, Hiccup whined, which was unlike him, but he had seen an interesting bird the other day and was wondering if it would return to the same spot in the forest. One more sword, Gobber negotiated. Figure you need a break, before work breaks ye. I am very resilient, Hiccup argued back. Fondly, Gobber cuffed his head lightly. That yar, kid. Not a kid. Hiccup sharpened the sword and worked it through all the necessary procedures obediently, before looking to Gobber. Gobber waved him off, and before the man could even say goodbye, Hiccup was gone. The new season had brought in a fresh wave of greenery to the forest, stirring life into it. As he ran deeper into the woods, birds and small wildlife scattered, the only things in the world scared of tiny Hiccup. Flowers bloomed, pollen in the air making him itch slightly, but the sheer joy of the fresh breeze and the springtime sun was enough to keep him going. He had survived another winter, to everyone's surprise but his own. Dad had been worried, but he was always worried. Snotlout had made a slighting comment about Hiccup's declining health. Fishlegs had looked horrified, and he had offered a Jorgensen talk about who might be the next heir. It was the same every winter. Sometimes, Hiccup thought he might be surviving on pure spite. Like he said, he was very resilient. Oi, it's Hiccup! He skidded to a halt when he heard Tuffnut's voice, almost tripping. He waved slightly. Ever since their adventure to the cliff, Hiccup had been hanging out with the twins off and on. Usually, the other two were doing something else, but sometimes they'd join him. Usually when he was testing something out, which, so far, had always gone disastrous. What are you guys doing here? He asked, a little suspicious. Running from meat old Alva, Ruffnut said. Not her fault she wasn't paying attention to her sheep better. Hiccup cringed. Please tell me none of them died. Little H, Tuffnut gasped. We'd never kill innocent animals. People, on the other hand. Ruffnut snickered. They're so fragile. Hiccup was, as always, very afraid for his own life. What are you doing here? Tuffnut asked, Ruffnut not seeming all that interested in him anymore. She went to swing on a branch. I found a rare species of bird the other day. I think it might have been a willow tit. The twins burst out laughing. Tit! Very mature guys. Hiccup rolled his eyes, smiling a bit himself. Anyway, they died out on Berk a few years ago, or so we thought. Boring, Ruffnut called. What do they look like? Tuffnut asked. Hiccup perked up, surprised. White and small, and really fluffy. Tuffnut frowned, looking around. Don't see it. Delighted, Hiccup laughed. Well, not yet. We have to be quiet and stealthy and patient. Okay, now I'm bored too. Tuffnut picked up a rock and threw it at Ruffnut's helmet. Hey! Don't throw rocks at me! Don't be so easy to hit. Ruffnut roared and tackled Tuffnut to the ground. The two began wrestling, kicking up dirt and almost pulling Hiccup along with them. Fortunately, Hiccup was too used to them by now and just sidestepped, finding a fallen branch to sit upon. It was mostly okay, just watching them fight. He pulled out his sketches of the willow tit and began drawing another one, allowing their arguing to be background noise. It was familiar somehow, even if no bird would come within a mile of them now. Hiccup hadn't noticed before they'd been hanging out more, but Ruffnut and Tuffnut were a bit like him. Outcasts. Of course, Hiccup had very little to do with his own ostracization, and the twins liked to bring it upon themselves. But Berk disliked the three of them for simple reasons. They brought chaos and confusion wherever they went, and they were pretty much useless at everything else. Though, the twins were still more liked, actually being Viking-like most of the time, meaning they were still mean and dumb sometimes. His notebook was snatched out of his hands with enough force that he almost fell forward. Hey! He glared at Ruffnut. Give that back! Give that back! She mocked, flipping through the pages. Wow, these are even more boring. Do you have any drawings of dragons? Tuffnut said, stopping at a page. Whoa, a whispering death. Let me see. Tuffnut pulled at the book. Ruffnut pulled back. No! Give it! Hiccup looked frantically between them, hands clenched in fists. Stop it! It's mine! Give it back! The book was starting to fall apart under the force. Frustrated tears welled up in his eyes. He should have known this would happen. Nothing good ever happened to him. Every friend he's ever had just wanted to hurt him. In his panic, he pushed Ruffnut to the ground, the notebook falling with her. Some pages came apart, but at least it was whole. Hey! Tuffnut yelled, shoving Hiccup. Only I get to push her! Then tell her not to touch my notebook. Why, you? Tuffnut stomped forward, only to stop when he stepped on something. He yelped, immediately jumping back. What was that? Ruffnut asked, as the something chirped miserably. A willow tit, Hiccup said wonderingly. And a baby one. He glared. And you stepped on it. What is wrong with you? Didn't mean to. Hiccup crouched down, assessing the damage. The wing seemed to be broken. He didn't know enough to accurately judge how old it was, but it wasn't an adult. It wasn't a baby either, at least. It must have been hurt long before Tuffnut stepped near it. Not on it, like Hiccup had thought. Is it going to be okay? Tuffnut asked, voice surprisingly small. Hiccup looked up, about to snap, when he was horrified to see the other boy's eyes were welling with tears. Are you crying? Even Hiccup didn't cry over hurt animals. Hey! Ruffnut growled. My bro's sensitive. You know that. No. Hiccup did not know that. He was Tuffnut Thorston. There was no way he was sensitive. That was just... Tuffnut angrily looked away and demanded, Well, is it okay? Its wing is broken, Hiccup said quickly, eager to move past the strange display as well. Ruffnut grunted. Guess we should end its suffering then, huh? Downed dragon is a dead dragon, or whatever. That was surprisingly smart. Tuffnut was sensitive, and Ruffnut was smart. What was happening to the world? What? No! Tuffnut yelped. I mean, it wasn't your fault, Tuff, Hiccup said, looking up. It fell from its nest. He smiled at the boy, who seemed a little relieved, before catching himself and forcing an uncaring expression. All right, get me a twig, the straightest one you can find. I'll make a splint. Tuffnut was on it immediately, Ruffnut sitting down and watching them, slightly curious. Hiccup took the string off his notebook, figuring he'd put it back together later. Okay, now hold him, Hiccup instructed. Gently. Tuffnut did, a little hesitant. Hiccup was still trying to get over the fact that Tuffnut was shaken up over injuring a bird. The twins hadn't been lying after all. They'd never hurt an animal. There, Hiccup said, tying the splint together and admiring his handiwork. Think you'll be able to take care of him? Yeah, sure. Whatever. Hiccup grinned, loving this new side of Tuffnut. But he would withhold from teasing. For now. You know, once I started bawling after thinking I killed an ant, Hiccup said casually. Tuffnut and Ruffnut laughed. Ha! You really are useless, Tuffnut said, though there was no venom behind his words. Hiccup beamed, staring down at the bird. Guess I am. That night, Ruffnut knocked on his door and handed him his notebook back, bound. He'd forgotten it in the forest, too caught up with Tuffnut brainstorming pet names. Oh, he said. Thanks. Yeah, she shifted. Thanks for being nice to Tuffnut. Hiccup shrugged. It's what friends do. Then he glared. But friends don't steal each other's notebooks. He paused, and a little more quietly added, or make fun of their stutters. Ruffnut groaned, stomping dramatically. Well, friends don't ignore friends by constantly scribbling away on a notebook all the time. Like, we get it, you're smart. Get a new thing. Hiccup blinked. Oh, I didn't mean to ignore you. I'd have shown you what was in it if you'd just asked. Ruffnut blinked. Wait, really? That's it? Yeah. Hiccup grinned. See what we can get done when we're talking things out? Ugh, you're such a sissy. Can't believe we like you. Ruffnut grinned back. Though, I suppose that does prove we're really insane, so can I borrow your notebook? With narrowed eyes, he asked, You're not gonna burn it, are you? Ruffnut hummed. Then she grabbed his notebook from his hands, cackled, and ran away. You know me so well. Ruff! He got the notebook back tomorrow anyway, crude doodles all over his blank pages, but his actual notes untouched. Hiccup grinned and kept the notebook on his shelf, despite how the corners were burned and there was a suspicious stain on it. He pulled out a different notebook and started designing wings, thinking about the bird now living with Tuffnut, wondering if one day Vikings could fly like birds. Or dragons. 2. Leave the nest. Things changed between them after that. Tuffnut and Ruffnut started sitting with him at meals, their wildness drawing more stares than Hiccup was comfortable with. Most people chose to ignore him. But they were a good distraction, their insanity and sometimes dumbassery leading to more and more brilliant ideas when distilled. Basically, Hiccup had realized that between their chaos and confusion, there were nuggets of wisdom. Rare, but precious. In turn, Hiccup interjected with his own sarcastic comments, which they seemed to appreciate greatly. He always kept a hand in his notebook, but Ruffnut's words kept him from getting too deep into his mind. Instead, he jotted down random notes, because the twins were, above all, completely random. He also learned, slowly, that the twins worked well together, but they were different people. Tuffnut was kinder, sometimes more sympathetic, more willing to listen to Hiccup complaining. Ruffnut was braver, sometimes smarter, more willing to punch someone for Hiccup. With the seasons turning warmer, dragon raids began to grow more frequent. Hiccup, now older and wiser by a year, had decided to pull away from killing dragons to helping the village. It ended badly.
Dude!
Ruffnut laughed.
Dude, how did you destroy 3 houses by your scrawny self?
Hiccup flushed.
I thought water catapult.
His friends were breathless with laughter, and Hiccup could only bury his head in shame. Tuffnut and Ruffnut tried riding the water catapult. It ended about as anyone expected.
You throw all to be inside on the next raid,
Stoic yelled for the whole village to hear.
I don't want any more of your help, Hiccup. And you two, just stay away from everything.
Ruffnut and Tuffnut were completely unrepentant. Hiccup was already scheming.
Don't get it,
Hiccup complained.
I'm trying, aren't I?
Your dad just doesn't understand your genius,
Tuffnut offered.
Happens to me too.
Ruffnut was bored of the conversation, hitting Tuffnut's helmet with a mace. The boy seemed completely unbothered. Hiccup paused, watching them.
They underestimate us,
he said.
We'll show them. Yeah!
The twins cheered. They went back to hitting each other. Hiccup looked down at his notebook, full of useless ideas now. He had hit a rut. He looked up at the twins for inspiration, then froze as he caught the sight of who was approaching.
Well, well, well,
Snotlout sneered.
If it isn't useless, and more useless.
We prefer chaos, confusion, and crazy, actually,
Hiccup drawled. Next to him, the twins high-fived.
More like dumb, dumber.
What do you want, Snotlout?
Hiccup interrupted.
Did your girlfriend dump you?
Ruffnut asked, gesturing to Astrid halfway across the hall.
Oh, wait, she'd never date you. Astrid and I are a match made in Valhalla,
Snotlout yelled.
She just doesn't see it yet. Women, right?
Tuffnut grumbled.
I know, right?
Ruffnut hit him. He hit back. Hiccup sighed, watching them push each other to the floor and start tussling.
Must be a nightmare to be around them.
Huh? Snotlout said in mock sympathy.
No. It's you who I can't stand.
Oh. Ivan, who had been drawn in by the commotion, said,
Runt's got teeth.
Snotlout punched his fist into his palm, grinning maliciously.
Then how about we break them?
No,
Tuffnut said, getting up from the floor.
Only we get to break his teeth.
Hiccup sputtered in protest, but was ignored.
You're seriously defending him?
Ivan growled.
He's Hiccup. He's bad luck.
Thanks for the vote of confidence,
Hiccup murmured. Again, he was ignored.
Yeah, exactly, Tuffnut agreed. He's an honorary Thorston sibling.
Ruffnut adjusted her helmet.
Younger, obviously.
What do you mean, obviously?
Hiccup yelped, then registered the words.
Wait, really?
He had known they were friends, but to call him sibling seemed so sweet and sappy, and so unlike the twins. What had he actually done to earn it, other than destroying stuff? He felt his cheeks warm, but he was grinning anyway. He'd never had friends before, but now he had siblings.
This is ridiculous, Ivan said. Snotlout, are you gonna let this stand?
Ivan was older than them, and a Jorgensen. Hiccup knew the battle was lost the moment Snotlight's eyes went cold. He would always be a Jorgensen first.
Obviously not.
It was okay, mostly. Hiccup was used to taking punches, though it hadn't happened in a while. What he wasn't used to, though, was someone punching for him. Ruffnut's fist made contact with Snotlout's jaw, the impact making his head snap back. Tuffnut grabbed their mace and swung wildly at Ivan, forcing the boy to jump back.
You two!
Ivan snarled at the two Viking girls, his friends, presumably, that had gathered.
Grab them!
The girls lunged for the twins, but they danced out of reach. Ruffnut cracked her knuckles.
Oh, this will be fun, she said. I've been missing a fight. Hanging out with you is very nonviolent. Yeah, get a hobby.
Hiccup looked at them flatly.
Are you on my side or not?
Ruffnut shrieked as she charged at Ivan. Tuffnut grinned at him.
All the way, bro.
And followed his sister into battle. Hiccup watched the chaos unfold with a sinking heart. The twins were good at dodging, but they wouldn't be able to outfight them. That was okay. Hiccup had been out thinking bullies for a long time.
Oh, hey, Dad.
Ivan and the others stopped immediately, Snotlout letting Tuffnut go from where he had the other boy trapped in a headlock. Hiccup grabbed the twins' hands, one in each, and pulled them along, running straight out of the meat hall. It was really a good thing his dad was chief. No one wanted to bully Hiccup in front of him.
Oi, we had it,
Ruffnut yelled.
No. We were outnumbered 3-4.
2-4,
Tuffnut corrected cheekily. Hiccup rolled his eyes, but he could admit he hadn't actually been contributing to the fight. Outside, preparations for the Berk week were already underway, creating a crowd surrounding the hall. Hiccup and the twins wove around them.
You three,
he heard Ivan yell.
Fight back like proper Vikings.
Ruffnut grit her teeth and clenched her mace tighter, but Tuffnut laughed.
We're disciples of Loki first and foremost.
Hiccup wouldn't go that far. Ruffnut grinned in agreement. The crowd made it easier to lose their hunters. Hiccup's smaller stature and the Thorstons' natural lankiness meaning they could slip through small openings. But eventually, the crowd began to thin the further they got from the Great Hall. Wolffang, one of Ivan's friends, a huge guy bigger than most full-grown Vikings and just as dull, stepped out of an alley, ready to block their path. Hiccup glared.
Split up and go around,
Hiccup said. The twins nodded. Hiccup charged straight ahead, grinning. Wolffang looked around, confused by the twins, but settled on blocking Hiccup's path. Anyone watching knew little Hiccup couldn't take on someone as big as Wolf Fang. Wolf Fang swung his arms in a grabbing motion. Hiccup slid under them.
Good thing I'm so small,
he muttered to himself. Hi, Tuffnut said, seeming way too excited as Ivan began to catch up.
Which way now?
The crowd was starting to slow them down more than anything, some people clearly attempting to stop them from running in such an un-Viking way. The Jorgensens were gaining speed. Hiccup spied a full wagon of barrels.
We go up. Follow me.
They do so, unflinchingly. Hiccup led the climb up the barrels with relative ease, stacked precariously, but well enough that they could get up. He waited till the two were on the roof of the house with him, before kicking the topmost barrel, sending them all toppling right onto Snotlout.
Let's go,
he yelled. They flew across the roofs, Viking houses made conveniently close to each other. Hiccup felt a laugh bubbling in his chest as people looked up at them in confusion. Ruffnut grinned and waved at Stoic as they passed. She really didn't have any self-preservation skills. They made their way out of Berk. By the time they made it to the beaches, they were panting and laughing, and their foes were long gone.
That was fun. Let's do it again,
Tuffnut said, throwing his arms up in the air in triumph.
With more hitting this time.
Hiccup swayed on his feet.
No, thanks. Let's never do that again.
You're no fun,
Ruffnut told him.
Still think we should have fought them. I was ready to bite. But did you see the look on their faces when H kicked the barrels into them?
Hiccup smiled at them, a little hesitant.
Hey, about what you said in the hall, about us being siblings.
Oh, that,
Ruffnut said, feigning dismissal but nervously playing with her mace.
You're an honorary Thorston. No take-backs.
The twins both looked at him, searching. Hiccup grinned so hard that his cheeks began to hurt.
Thanks, guys.
It wasn't like he'd ever been good enough to be a Haddock, after all.
So, what do we call him?
Tuffnut wondered out loud.
Upnut. Hicknut?
Hiccup groaned.
You both suck. Just call me Hiccup.
Nuh-uh. Thorstons need a nutty name.
Ruffnut pushed Hiccup lightly, but Hiccup was way too weak and ended up falling into the water.
Hey,
he yelled.
You're our brother, so we get to bully you now.
Ruffnut grinned, kicking sand in his face.
Oh, so you're playing like that, eh? There will be consequences.
Ruffnut gave him a blank look.
Oh, I'm so scared.
Tuffnut snickered as his sister was pulled into the water by her feet. She reemerged spluttering.
Why, you little...
They both looked at Tuffnut, still laughing, then looked at each other.
Hey, no, don't!
Hiccup returned home that day, dripping with seawater. He didn't notice, nor care, the look his father shot him.
Upnut is good. I like Hicknut better. Wait.
Tuffnut sat up.
Runtnut!
Hiccup threw a pencil at his head.
We don't have to get revenge,
Hiccup said hesitantly.
We should just leave them alone.
H, love you, but no, Tuffnut said.
Yeah, Hicknut,
Ruff said, waving the goat bladder in his face.
Besides, you don't want to test out your little machine.
It's more than just a machine, it's
a water catapult that can't shoot water,
Ruffnut said pointedly.
But with this, it can. Behold,
Tuffnut said, weaving yet another goat bladder in Hiccup's face.
The answer to all your problems. Courtesy of I.
Ruffnut grinned.
No, I. No, I.
They growled and began slapping each other with their respective goat bladders. Hiccup sighed, supremely unimpressed.
And what exactly is your idea?
These.
They held up the bladders.
Yes, I figured, but what?
Oh.
You two are geniuses. Gross geniuses. Insane geniuses. But geniuses.
Tuffnut smirked.
Finally, someone gets it.
Wait, what did we do? Ruffnut shrugged.
Dunno. I was just gonna pee in Snotlout's drink and then launch him from the catapult. Same. The bladders were a metaphor.
They high-fived. Hiccup grinned, still refusing to take back the fact they were brilliant. Hiccup ordered the twins to fill the goat bladders with water. Seawater, so no one accused them of wasting fresh water. And began rigging the catapult.
Ugh, is this one of your non-violent ideas?
Ruffnut groaned as she loaded the bladders into the catapult.
Our brother is a wimp,
Tuffnut agreed.
I swear to God, you two got meaner ever since I became a Hicknut.
Oh my God, did you hear that, sister? I did indeed, brother. Hiccup has finally accepted his place and become Hicknut, the hiccup of nuts. That sounds sufficiently dirty, brother. That was my intention, sister.
Hiccup groaned and let his head fall, thumping against the catapult. It almost sprung the trap, but held a while longer, thankfully.
Now what?
Ruffnut asked.
We wait. Boring.
Please, just trust me.
So they waited. Not for long, because Ivan was stepping out of his house right on cue. He walked forward 2 steps, then stopped.
Come on,
Hiccup urged quietly. Ivan stretched, walking forward again, straight into the trigger wire. The catapult launched the 3 goat bladders straight into Ivan's face, exploding on impact and drenching him in seawater. And anything else that had been inside.
You 3!
Ivan growled, spotting them.
And now we run,
Hiccup said happily.
Least favorite part,
Ruffnut huffed.
Most favorite part,
Tuffnut grinned. Ivan screeched, coming after them, only to trip over a rope that sent a full bucket of seawater onto his head. Bucket first. He'd be fine. Vikings had notoriously thick skulls. Hiccup was proven right when from behind them, Ivan screamed.
Ruffnut! Tuffnut! Hiccup!
He got your name wrong,
Tuffnut murmured. And for the first time in what felt like a lifetime, Hiccup laughed, unadulterated.